Hey folks, I'm Jonathan Zuma and I want to introduce 8 small business ideas that I think have a great potential for 2022 and hopefully a post-pandemic world. Now there's no get-rich-quick scheme here. These are legitimate small business ideas that I think will add value to your community and to your bank account, so let's go. Number 8, a vegan specialty product. Now, we all know moving away from meat or animal products has been a trend. That's, just in terms of die-hard vegan, that went from about 1% in 2014 all the way up to 3 to 6% when you look at more recent surveys. That's a six-fold increase in a couple of years. So very, very big upside, and that's just the diehards. When you look at the general population, according to Gallup, that's 23% of people simply cut a bit of their meat consumption. So maybe not all the way to veganism, but looking for other alternatives, plant-based alternatives. And that's been a huge market. A lot of companies like Impossible Foods have tapped into that with like the vegan burgers, vegan hot dogs, all the staples, if you will. But what's really interesting is specialty products, especially ones that are related to your specific culinary culture in your area, have huge potential. Two things I like about it: it's local, so you're addressing a local market that that you can tailor to, and the big competitors like Impossible Foods could not care less about your little market of a few million people in your area who eat. For my province in Canada, we eat this thing called crouton. It's a meat spread that basically you only eat at a sugar shack. I can tell you right now, Impossible Foods is not going to do that just now. But here in All Small Culture, our small businesses could tap into that and make good money from it. Definitely something to consider if you are a small business, and especially if your culinary culture is unique and that you can, offer a vegan version of traditional meals or traditional dishes that big companies would overlook because they care about the multi-million, billion-dollar businesses, and you can, as a small business, survive with a lot less than that. So great place to start, and either to exit later on or to diversify into multiple products and feed your local population with vegan food. Number 7, a niche co-working space. We've seen it. COVID has changed in the last 2 years so much on the working from home trend, but we're human creatures, and we've seen this. A lot of companies are asking employees to come back to the office in a hybrid. Employees don't want to. It's an interesting battle going on, but something that's for sure in there is humans are social creatures, and people are still going to be working. So companies are going to have to deal with that. Employees are going to have to deal with that, and the middle ground is becoming more and more interesting. So the co-working space, where it's a flexible contract for the employer, but it's also a nice space that can be used maybe 1 day a week, 2 days a week for the employees. Now, I don't think you should just open a co-working space. They've got that covered. What I think you should cover is the niche co-working spaces. So maybe you're in an area where you live in a fashion district, or maybe you're like me and you're surrounded by video game companies. In that case, focus on the niche. Focus on bringing those people together that have the same expertise. And not only are you going to have, it's going to be a fun place where people can chat, but you're creating a competitive advantage for your customers, for people who come to your place. For instance, there's a Slack group I'm in of growth marketers, and it's a competitive advantage for my employer that I'm in the Slack group. I can see the learnings, I can see what other people are doing. Now, if you're co-working space, it's even easier to see that. I don't need to wait for someone to post their learnings for free. I can just see them react and on their computer and say, you know what, by the coffee table, here's what happened today, whatever, and you can learn so much faster. It's a competitive advantage you can give to your customers, and you're competing with the big boys like the WeWorks and Regus, but you're also in a place that can be much smaller. Again, it's a small business here, and lower risk also, and build a community out of that. And who knows what can come as a next step. Maybe you could build an agency if you're a growth marketing co-working space, or maybe you can help give your contracts to your tenants. There's a lot of things that can go right here, but definitely if you're going to go into the co-working space, start with a niche, specific type of customer. Go deep, go really specific, and that way there's a few people that are there, but they're getting the most value out of that co-working space. Number 6, a coffee shop. Now, I wouldn't start a coffee shop in 2022. I would try to buy one, either like the whole thing, the brand, everything, or buy the equipment of one that's closing. And the reason I think now is a good time to buy is because it's been a crazy 2 years. A lot of owners Small business owners, they've had it very rough. If you're an owner of a coffee shop, much respect for what you've had to go through. Some of these owners are looking to exit. It would be a good time if you're looking to start or looking to get in. I would try to see if I can, buy up the equipment, or maybe buy the whole thing with the brand and everything. I'm not sure if I would do that, but at least the equipment and maybe the space, get the lease transferred to you so you don't have to pay higher inflated prices. These are all things to consider, but a coffee shop in a context that, like I mentioned earlier, that is a reopening where people are getting out of the house more, definitely has a lot of potential, and probably a lot of good entry opportunities for this business. Number 5, a short-term rental property in your city. Now, I'm not going to go long here. This is Airbnb style approach. Why I think this is an interesting time, like I mentioned earlier, the world is reopening. People are going to go out. People are going to travel. So they'll look for those places to stay around the world for shorter terms periods. And I mean, even if, we do have like 5th, 7th, whatever we're at in terms of waves of a new variant, you can leverage that risk by renting out that space to people who need to quarantine or whatnot. Sonder is a great example of a company that did that amazingly during COVID. They outperformed the hotel industry just with their pivot from their just short-term rental to longer-term rental during the pandemic. Now I believe they're transferring back to shorter term, but it's very interesting business to be in. Again, you'll need some capital to make sure that you're not stuck with a space that's not being rented, but this is relatively easy for you to do. Make sure it's legal, make sure that the neighbors are okay with it, that the landowner is okay with it. If you want to go rogue and not tell anyone, go ahead, but if it's going to be like, I think people who are traveling and who are getting their vacations out of their system during the summer, you might want to make sure everyone's okay, because it might be a bit loud in there. Number 4, a co-working camp. Now, urban millennials have just suffered during the pandemic. No travel, no nothing, most of us at least. And the nomad lifestyle, it's like the alternative, work from anywhere approach, has been shooting up. If you look at Google Trends, the searches, it's been doing quite well during the pandemic. And I can tell you right now that it's possible, I think we're going to see a lot of people attempting to do that, to free themselves geographically from their work and to work from anywhere and discover the world like that. Now, that's a very exciting thing. I've considered it myself. And one of the things that stopped me from doing that is I don't know if I can pull that off in a cheaper way if I don't know the local, grocery store, restaurants, internet provider, all that. It's a hassle, I can tell you. There's websites that'll help you to do that, but still, it's a hassle. Co-working camps, what they do is it's basically the tout inclus. Everything's included. You show up, and they have internet, fun. They have all sorts of amenities that are not tailored to the 60-year-old retired person, but to the millennial who wants to travel the world and work at the same time. So it's a mix between a co-working space and a co-living where you can also sleep there. Very interesting potential there. I would definitely recommend you look into that ASAP, because they're already getting some ads, so people are getting onto the train of the co-working camp, and it's a very promising one. So I'll let you look into that a bit more. Number 3, a dog sitting or a dog walking business. During COVID, people settled down. They piled into the real estate market. They bought a dog. They bought a cat. They bought pets more than ever before, and that means a lot of new owners of animals at home. And when these new owners have their first big vacation in 2 years coming up in the summer, they're going to need to figure out what to do with their pets. They're going to have to find a family member, a friend, someone to take care of the dog, and that gets complicated real quick. And the dog sitting, dog walking business is basically like the babysitter of the pets, and you basically can offer to do the service that the owner cannot do to the animal to keep it alive, keep it healthy, keep it happy. So this is very exciting because you can do this with nothing. You literally just post an ad or post a website and make little posters. You can start this with $0 and just word of mouth. So if you love animals, if you're known to love animals, you should start this this summer, because a lot of owners are going to have a headache trying to find how can they take care of their pet when they're gone for a week or a month. And they're not going to want to put that burden on their families. And moreover, it's always good to have someone who has experience with this to make sure that the pet is well taken care of, well fed, well walked, just gets the right thing. And often, especially since a lot of new owners have taken over during the pandemic, if you're someone who's good with dogs, good with pets, and knows how to take care of them well, you might even teach the owners how to be better owners after a while. So it's a very interesting value-added service that I think will be specifically relevant in the coming year as people travel and want to move away from commitments of staying in the same house for 2 years. The pet is a complication for them if they want to move around, and you can solve that problem by having a dog sitting, a dog walking business that can make sure their animal is taken care of. Number 2, a vegan food truck. Yes, here I go again with the vegan stuff. But listen, this is something I made my point earlier. It's on trend, it's growing, and food trucks is something that there is no healthy or no meatless alternative, except if you just get a churros. Are churros vegan? I don't know. So that questioning is complicated. I can tell you from having a vegan wife, we have a hard time anytime we're in a situation where we rely on a food truck. And when we travel the world next year, I would love to know who to go to in the festivals and in the parks. So a vegan food truck, not only do you cater to the vegans, but you also have all the vegetarians that can trust you, because if you're vegan, clearly there's no meat. Or if you cater to the vegans, you also cater to the vegetarians. And you also cater to the population that wants to reduce their meat consumption, or maybe just eat healthy because they're not feeling so well at the festival. All things that you'll need to consider. But a vegan food truck would be a fun little business to start. If you're students or looking for a project, this would be a very fun one. And I think there's great upside and great moments to be had for anyone who starts this business. Number 1, mushroom farm. Yes, food. Edible mushrooms. This is so exciting because it's one of the most profitable crops per square foot, but also it can be grown indoors, pretty much anywhere. You can do this in your garage. You can do this in a warehouse facility in the middle of the city. There's a lot of opportunities here, and it's profitable. I think 20 grand investment for 50 grand revenue in the first year. Very interesting. That can be done at different scales. There's industrial projects for sure, but there's also the small scale suiting to and serving restaurants, serving farmers markets, selling to local grocery stores or direct to customer. This is a very interesting business, and it has not been developed super well up to now because specialty mushrooms don't last as long. But as our logistical systems opt closer to local food and that we move towards faster delivery of goods, it opens up these kinds of specialty foods that we don't know as much. But I mean, shiitake, oyster, we're starting to know them, but there's all sorts of other mushrooms like lion's mane and everything that are yet to be discovered, especially if you live in an area that's outside of urban centers. Very exciting potential here. I really believe in this. I'm actually going to make more videos on this, so stay tuned. I invite you to subscribe for more ideas like this. The whole point of Capital Commons with this channel is to share ideas, to share the process of starting these ideas with you. So I hope that you get a ton of value from that. If you did get value from this, please give a like and we'll be in touch.